welcome to another edition of Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research, with Mike King in Las Vegas and Charles Moskowitz in Boston. And today, a very special guest. You want to get your dialing fingers going too. 888-792-1590, 888-792-1590, because at the half-hour mark, we will be talking to Kathy Griffin. So Kathy Griffin, and we're going to talk about World Without Blindness, and Dave Reichman as well. So those guys are going to be on the air with Michael and Charles Moskowitz, who, while everybody else was selling gold last week, the Weekly Market Strategies was making a killing. Good job, guys. How are you?
Very good. You?
Hey, doing well. I mean, I just need to know, Charles, are the countertops in your office on fire? I mean, you are so white. You have been so white hot for 3 or 4 months this year.
Well, we are pressing up against 200% up year to date. We closed the week last week at up 197%.
That's amazing.
And frankly, it just goes to show you. Now, I have not been overwhelmingly excited about the market. If anything, I've been a little skeptical. And yet, in that period of time, we've continued to make great money. Right now, I'm just taking on a little bit smaller positions and a few less of them at a time, just because I'm certainly not going to try and call even an intermediate top. I want to continue to participate. I just want to keep a very tight rein on the amount of risk that we're taking.
Okay, I got to ask you guys a question, being a total neophyte in all of this stuff. You talk about gold futures, when you buy them and stuff. And that margin is not the same as it would be with stocks. What's the difference?
Right. When you trade a commodity,
yep.
You have to go back to the original structure of these markets and why they came into existence.
Okay.
They were not markets for speculation. They were markets for the farmers and the miners in order to sell out their actual production when they thought that the market was favorable to them. Because, a farmer knows what his land costs, what his seed costs, what it takes him to make a profit. So, he goes in and hedges that off by, if everybody came in at the same time 4 days after the harvest, they'd get dramatically lower prices. And so because of that, the futures contracts are actual contracts to either take or make delivery. And so you have the full responsibility of that contract. If you're going to sell a contract of wheat, you have to deliver 5,000 bushels, or you have to offset your position. So what margin actually is in the commodities is a good faith down payment against that contract. So if you're buying 100 ounces of gold and it's selling for $100 an ounce, then that's a $10,000 commitment.
Mm-hmm.
At that level, you might only have to put up $1,000 a contract.
I gotcha. Okay.
The upshot of that, of course, is that you have the liability of the entire $10,000.
Right.
As opposed to when you buy a stock on margin, you're only paying for, let's say, half of it, and the brokerage firm is paying for the other half and charging you interest on the money you've borrowed. Now, there is no interest charge in the futures because, as I said, it's a good faith down payment. And so until the contract actually is delivered or deliverable, you don't really have any great liability on, for borrowing the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a borrow. It's actually a down payment.
Interesting.
So that, in this market with gold at, let's say, 1,400, that 100 ounces is $140,000. You have to put up, I don't remember, what is it, Mike, around $5,500 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you put up $5,500. If gold goes down $55, which is, up until the last couple of weeks, an unusual happenstance that it goes that far that fast.
Yeah, but a couple of weeks ago it did, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you bought gold at 1,600 and it went to 1,500,
Yeah.
which it did,
Yeah.
or actually down as low, it went down as much as
isn't it?
$150.
Yeah.
Well, at that point in time, if you haven't offset your contract by selling it, you're down 150 times 100 ounces,
Ouch.
or $15,000. The fact that you put up $5,500 has no bearing on that. You now have, a loss, and you still own 100 ounces of gold that's now worth $15,000 less. So of course you have to put up more money. But the fact is, if you paid $1,500, your liability is the whole $150,000.
Woo. Okay.
So from a speculator's side, it's a little bit more difficult. Now, if a guy has wheat and he sells the wheat into the market and it goes up, theoretically he's losing money. But the fact is, if he sells wheat at, just to use a number, at $5 and it only costs him $4 a bushel to grow it and deliver it, then he's still profitable. That was the original intent of these markets.
Interesting stuff. Hey, I want to know, how do I get Jamie Dimon's job?
Which one?
That's what I mean. I mean,
Or both. You want both of them or just one of them?
The guy comes under unbelievable fire the last 6 months or so and still winds up holding on to his job, or at least part of it.
He is a great operator.
I guess so.
And I don't mean that an operator in the negative sense, like a promoter per se, but
Although he may be that too.
He is very good.
Yeah. Wow.
And they have narrowly defeated what was in fact a non-binding vote anyway.
Yeah.
To split those two. I mean, theoretically, sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. If a guy gets hit by a bus tomorrow, the company has a real problem. But the fact of the matter is, he has done a great job with that. And, okay, so his oversight was somewhat lacking in the London whale situation, let's say. But the fact of the matter is, they didn't lose any taxpayer money. They did lose some shareholder money, but the bottom line for that quarter was still positive, even with the loss. So if you don't like him and you don't like his style as a shareholder, sell your stock.
Mm-hmm.
It's up 40% for the year. I mean, not this year, but in the last 12 months. You vote with your feet. You have the right and the ability to do that.
There you go.
The important thing, though, is, that these guys who don't have a clue of, what goes on in the real world, are saying, oh, well, but the taxpayers, didn't cost the taxpayers anything, period.
Interesting stuff.
So, this is very political.
Yeah.
As is the situation with Apple today.
Yeah, what happened there? I mean,
Apple evidently has a corporate structure where they make money in an entity domiciled in Ireland where they don't have to pay taxes. The money is earned and stays outside the U.S.
that story was done on 60 Minutes 5 years ago. So what?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Every major U.S. company does that.
I think the Democrats and the Republicans want to take a little bit of the shining light
off the
administration's problem of the IRS issue now, and the Republicans the same way. they want to focus. They want something focused on, that does not relate to their inability to produce results. And so, this is typical Washington. So Tim Cook is going to speak, and we'll find out what he has to say. But what everybody that I've heard this morning on CNBC and Bloomberg has said, if you listen to what they said in the Senate, they used the word avoidance. Not evasion, avoidance. Mm-hmm. And, if you really want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, corporations owe their shareholders, their owners, the responsibility of making the most money possible.
Exactly.
Well, they can avoid taxes, then it's that much better for the company.
Right.
But, these guys, what they didn't happen to say is that Apple paid $6 billion last year in U.S. taxes, and we don't know if it's absolutely the largest, but it's certainly one of the top 5 taxpayers in the U.S. At some point in time, you get to the point where, you're killing the goose that's laying the golden egg.
That'll rebuild a lot of bridges. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but take the shot. By the way, I have to wave the flag at one of the 2 reporters who had his phone tapped at Fox. William Longinus worked at our old television station, the one that Carol was an anchor there, and then I was in sports at what was KCST, now KNSD. But William Longinus followed us into San Diego, and then, of course, went on to Fox News. And, again, he followed us right after we had both left Fox News. But congratulations to him for having his phone tapped. And
yeah.
Same with James
he must
Rosen.
Be doing something right.
Oh, man. Oh, things are, if they could get any crazier in D.C. right now. But, what's so funny, and Mike, you guys have said this for years, the market does its own thing no matter what. And,
yep.
With all the insanity going on in D.C., so what? It just keeps plowing through.
And the funny thing, Greg, is that the market is the ultimate pricing mechanism for assets. You can talk about, this company or that company and this level of earnings and this PE and, this or that chairman or CEO. The fact of the matter is the market provides you with a price that if you're dissatisfied, you can sell it any day. And if you want to own it, you can buy it any day. And, there's a price and there's liquidity. And, that's what it's for.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Well, 69302, those familiar numbers. No, we're not talking the lottery.
Yeah.
But you never know. The way Charles has been working, his tech service is sort of been going crazy like the lottery. But, those are the magic numbers for the lottery for Charles's update service. And like we were saying, Charles has just been absolutely on an absolute roll after the first of the year. It's been amazing. And, looking day by day, I mean, you've got so many different fascinating updates from AutoZone to Best Buy and Lowe's and Target, all the biggies. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Good stuff. Well, Michael, what's new in your world in lovely Las Vegas?
Well, this would be the 9th consecutive up Tuesday if the market goes up today. It's struggling right now, as we often have going into holiday periods. We have reversals in the market, changes of pattern. We're going into Memorial Day weekend. All the markets are acting like they want to change direction. Gold, for one, is looking like it wants to put a bottom in. Stocks look like they want to put a top in. It would be appropriate. Bonds look like they want to put a top in. Interest rates putting in a bottom. So those are patterns that look like they want to change. And the SPXU is a way of buying the reverse S&P. So that and it has a lot less volatility than the S&P itself. So it's a lower risk way of participating in a hedge. If you're looking to hedge your portfolio, it's a good way to hedge. Buying a little bit of insurance, that can never hurt.
Noticed on the weekly market strategy, dollar up a little bit, by $1.11, 1.3%. Is that good or bad? I mean, it seems like I would imagine a lot of the countries are buying dollars, American dollars. Is that right? I mean, it seems to be the most stable currency around right now.
Yeah. And it's not only that, in the market, people tend to like to buy and hold assets that are denominated in dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why, people don't understand that, things may not be great here, and our market keeps moving to new highs. Well, we're the best house in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of bad neighborhoods, that's Michigan. But the sentiment, especially Detroit. And one of the nicest men I have ever dealt with in my entire career was Dave Bing. When he was playing for the Detroit Pistons. I just love that guy. That poor guy stepped into such an awful job. And I guess he's not going to run again for mayor of Detroit. And I know he did it for civic pride, but man, what a crazy place. But the Michigan sentiment, according to the weekly market strategy newsletter, hit pre-recession levels last week. That's spectacular. I mean, that's really spectacular. So, and industrial production seems to be, hanging in there. So as a small business person, it feels a little better now. I mean, it just.
Well, I think Mike has had that experience even with his local bank.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The banks are awash in cash and are looking for opportunities. And as we pointed out in last week's market letter, not this week, the banks are having trouble finding takers. It's finding the takers who want to borrow the money at roughly between 6 and 8%, which is not bad, moderate rate.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, but do you have to have a 9,000 credit rating to get the money though, Mike?
And just today we have a very, very big Peterbilt truck. We bought a huge excavator for AIVN. This is the mine that is actually producing gold right now as we speak in Mexico. It's a huge mine, and we needed another excavator. Well, these excavators, this John Deere, is very big. It's as big as a house, and the truck to carry it was in the shop. Well, because it's more than 80,000 pounds, it needs a special IRS 2240. You go to IRS to get the 2240. No one there knows what it is. You call IRS. They say, well, go to your bank and have them wire the money in. Oh. You go to the bank and have them wire the money in. They wire the money in. And no one at IRS understands what it really is, money for.
Oh, no.
Go back to the bank, go back to IRS, walk them through the 2240. A lot of people in the government don't know all of their own rules because there's so many of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a discussion that I heard yesterday also about, is the head of the IRS, who can't keep things straight, really the person to be handling Obamacare? Which is going to be,
It's so complicated. All of it. We're getting into just too many complications. The government overlap is becoming very complicated.
Yeah, and yesterday they had Fisher from the Dallas Fed on. I don't remember whether it was CNBC or Bloomberg, but they had him on, and he was saying, we don't have to scrap Dodd-Frank, but, some of the rules were put on at the height of the problem, and they are so they are so big, size-wise, and they are so intricate in the if this, then that they really need to be rewritten.
Mm-hmm.
So, we get into, it's so difficult when you want to fix a specific problem and go after that problem, the unintended consequences that ripple through, everything related to it.
Right. Wow. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. When you start thinking about that, it's very scary. It really is. And and you talk to any community banker around the United States, and they'll just tell you that the banking regulations just gone absolutely crazy. And what's interesting is that we're hearing stories now from banks who took over at the urging of the feds, by the way, took over other banks. Well, now the feds are coming back to them saying, well, you don't have enough in reserve. And so they're saying, but you told us that we had to take over these 6 banks. And they said, well, yeah, but you need some reserve. It's like, oh, it's full circle. Now the whole thing's going to start again, and you just think, I just don't even believe this is happening.
And I have to tell you, there's something completely an aside from this. But on CNBC, they have Marissa Mayer, who is a very attractive young woman who now heads Yahoo, who made this deal with Tumblr.
Oh, yeah.
Took over Tumblr.
How did she rationalize that?
She's sitting here and being interviewed, and he looks like he's in junior high school.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe high school.
Uh-huh.
But certainly not somebody who, put together a $1.3 billion company.
Wow.
It just shows you young brains that are put to work.
Yeah.
You have so many young brains that don't do anything, that don't even like school. And then there's the few that apply themselves, and look what they accomplish. Look at the billions of dollars young people have accomplished, and there are so many of these companies in the hopper just waiting to come on stream.
Yeah.
In which the owners and the developers, these young kids, are going to make millions of dollars. Forget billions.
Right.
Yeah. Did you see that story of that 15-year-old boy who has got cancer treatment, and he can whatever his device is, can diagnose this maybe months in advance of like normal blood tests, and it's like I think every pharma company is after this kid, and you think he's 15 years old, but it's not a surprise. Not a surprise. There is I remember Carol's Rotary Club gave a scholarship to a young girl, and I think she was only 15, who was working with Florida Atlantic University in Harbor. I can't think of their name, but anyway, the huge research, aquatic research area right here, and she had been working from the time she was 13 on a kelp cancer cure, which apparently is going to go to market. And so
Kathy Griffin.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Well,
hello, how are you?
Well, welcome to Money Info, and Kathy is with World Without Blindness program. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about Treetop Industries.
Sure. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Treetop Industries we're a public company. We are devoted, as our chairman has said many times. I'm not sure if your listeners know this, but when David Reichman took the company over, he changed the name to Treetop Industries, and he coined our signature, emerging technologies for a sustainable planet, because he really is very committed to those ideas. And, of course, that also extends then to identifying potential challenges in the developing world. As president of the company, one of my jobs is to do the due diligence on different possible partnerships and companies that have that mission. For instance, just before we get into World Without Blindness, I can tell your listeners that we spent a bit of time working on a company that works with nanotechnology in the personalized medicine space, and using molecular diagnostics to come up with easier ways for patients to identify illnesses on their own instead of having to go to a lab. After a bit of due diligence, we decided to move on from that. Now, with World Without Blindness, David is, first of all, personally friends with one of the founding fathers of World Without Blindness, and so right away we were very committed to it. And then in looking at it further, it really has our support. So we have partnered with them. World Without Blindness is devoted to the prevention of blindness through screening and early disease detection, with educating physicians and also scientific research. I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about the incidence of blindness or not, but
sure.
You can go on any. Okay, if you look at the World Health Organization, their statistics, it's an incredibly high incidence of blindness worldwide. There are over 45 million blind people now, 135 million vision impaired people. 70% of those cases could be prevented with early intervention, which is what we're doing with the World Without Blindness technology. But even more heartbreaking is that of those cases, 500,000 of them are cases of childhood blindness. Childhood blindness occurs every year, roughly at 1 child blindness per minute. That is an astounding figure, and those figures that I picked up probably are a year old, so I'm guessing that if they're not any worse, they're certainly not any better. So World Without Blindness is going to be targeting pediatricians, schools, government agencies, private organizations, specifically in the developing world, and try to work with them so that we can, get that number down. Now, the way the technology works, it actually is older technology. It's called visual evoke potential. And please stop me if anybody wants to ask a question, because I can run on. But visual evoke potential actually is an older technology. It was developed at Rockefeller University in New York City, and it allows for the screening of the eye on a large scale and in an objective way, so that this screening can go right into the eye and it can see, number one, if there's a tendency towards glaucoma or amblyopia or any of the other diseases, and it can also see if a disease has begun, because most eye diseases occur over time with no symptoms. So the person who is going blind doesn't even realize that they're going blind. And of course you can imagine this challenge in the developing world, where even when children are old enough, perhaps to read or to learn to read, nobody is picking up that this is an issue for them. What's special about World Without Blindness is the software, the patented software that the technologists and doctors have developed, which allows for this technology of visual evoke potential to be used in a place, say, like Ecuador, where the machine can be used by someone without a huge skill set. They can just sit a baby down as young as 6 months old, use the screening to go through their eyes, but the results of that test by the software goes right back through the computer system to the New York Eye and Ear Clinic in New York City, where ophthalmologists and doctors can look at that, assess it, and in a very short order get back to these people and the technicians there and say, okay, this child has a problem. This child needs to be taken to either a local doctor, or where they may not be a local doctor, needs to be taken to the city or needs to go to a clinic. And usually in these places there are clinics. There are, the UN does have places where you can take children who are, underprivileged and in need of care. But the beauty of this system is that we can tell very, very early on. And that will put a huge dent, we're hoping, or a dent at least, in those 500,000 new cases of childhood blindness.
Kathy, what has been the reaction of the pediatricians in the developing countries? When you come to them with this idea, I mean, are they really receptive?
Yes, that's a great question, and the answer is a resounding yes, and I can tell you why, at least in what I've been looking at and what I've been listening to and reading. Unlike in the United States, where this is just a general statement, but oftentimes we're the type of people that when we get sick, we go to the doctor. We get diagnosed and we get cured.
Right.
in the developing world, they're not used to that luxury of waiting to get sick, going to a doctor, the family medical person, being taken care of, being looked after, and being cured. So they're very open to the idea of clinics and places where the whole village, if you will, can go and be screened. There isn't this sense of, I don't want to say entitlement, but there isn't this sense of, when I get sick, I go to a doctor and I get cured. So when, for instance, the project in Ecuador, the pilot project that ran in Ecuador, if we can show you, you can go online and take a look at it. We can send you out some things from YouTube and so on. The local newspaper was there to welcome us. The local TV station was there. There was a tremendous amount of excitement in the places in the towns that we went to, because they understood, intuitively, they understand the idea of being ahead of the curve on these things, because they don't have that doctor's office right down the street.
Wow, that's great. That's great news.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really is amazing. Okay, you mentioned the website. Where can we go to take a look at all that?
Okay, well, there's a documentary up on YouTube, and I don't know if David is with us or not, but if he is, he might have that exact website to go to. But you can also go to www.worldwithoutblindness.com, I believe it is.
Okay.
And you can look in on that.
Okay. That's amazing. That's the absolutely amazing project.
Yeah, we're very excited about it, and of course they did do the project in Ecuador. And just to give you a few facts about it, they did screen 1,200 children, about 1,157. They did find, as they expected to, 9 to 10% occurrence of either diseases trending towards blindness or a weakness in the eye, a preventable eye disease. Some of these diseases, like amblyopia, they just need antibiotics. It comes from the environment that they're living in. That is just not as clean of an environment as, and they rub their eyes and they get they get something that if we went to our ophthalmologist, they could cure it easily. So we believe that this project was going to have a significant social and financial impact in any country we take it to, and we're putting together as much as we can about Ecuador to bring it to the next stop.
Okay, what is the next level for you guys at Treetop?
The next level with World Without Blindness?
Yes.
Or just in general?
Well, kind of all the above.
Well, I've kind of brought you up to date on the World Without Blindness project.
Okay.
Because we did the wheels of these things when you're dealing with governments. You would say to yourself, "Good heavens, what a great idea this is!" I'm sure everybody's clamoring for it, but we actually have to spend a bit of time putting this project together, making sure that it is. What's the word I'm going to checkable? The facts are checkable, which we know what we've done and we know what we have. But it does take a little bit of time to move forward. So that's where we're at right now with World Without Blindness, is assessing Ecuador and getting it put together so that we can present it to the next group.
That's another interesting question. We know that the pediatricians and those folks are excited. What about the governments themselves? I mean, have they... what was the Ecuadorian government? Were they easy to deal with? Were they difficult? Was there a lot of red tape?
Well, the reason we picked Ecuador is, I'm sure you could deduce, there was a reason we picked Ecuador of every place in the world, and that's simply because one of the founding members of this project, a world-renowned ophthalmologist who's based in New York, is from Ecuador.
Okay.
He grew up in Ecuador,
okay.
And he, of course, feels a tremendous desire to give back from Ecuador back to his country. And so we were, sort of, I don't want to say treated with kid gloves, but we were welcomed there because he's very well known in the cities. He's done work there on his own in the past, and so that sort of paved our way.
Well, if I can jump in, Kathy, and just...
Hi, David.
Hi, I'm sorry that I had some kind of technological error here. We missed about a minute of getting in. To your point about Ecuador and why the reception was so at ease there is about Dr. Tello and his recognition. But even further than that, between the government and the doctors locally, they have established a foundation called the Dr. Tello Foundation. and in fact are all participating in the development and the testing of the project, so that really we had professionals who were giving of their time and effort helping to make this demonstration project go forward. So I think that the reason for the reception there was simple. We don't expect that there should be any resistance to the acceptance by any of the governments once we are able to demonstrate the program to them.
Right.
And we are anticipating putting a video presentation of it together in the next 8 to 12 weeks by an associated firm of ours, Dixie World Productions, which will include Dr. Tello and others demonstrating how the product is worked on video, so that we can get this out immediately, and then followed up with our own connection to those local governments in India, Indonesia, China, and so forth. And hopefully we'll get the program operational by the fall of this year.
Boy, that's awesome. I was going to ask you if you had a documentary crew go down with you guys to Ecuador. That's so we can Dixie World Productions is putting this together for you, huh?
Yes, they will be putting it together for us. There are some video. I believe the linkage is in our PowerPoint presentation, and that'll be up on our website, I believe, by the end of this week at www.ttiob.com. We will have the YouTube videos up, as well as the PowerPoint presentation of the program.
Interesting. Wow, that's absolutely phenomenal. And best of luck to you. Kathy, what else is happening at Treetop?
Well, we have another technology that is very exciting, and this one I was speaking before, David. I don't know if you heard about how we do a lot of due diligence on different types of projects, and oftentimes, we say to ourselves, okay, this is great, but not now, or this is a wonderful idea, but it's not what is exactly in line with our goals. But other than World Without Blindness, another one that we have, we acquired 15 intellectual properties associated around the building of this system. We acquired the intellectual properties from a company called Bioenergy Applied Technologies. Basically, we call it BAT, B-A-T, the BAT system. And what the BAT system is that it is a system of waste destruction that will destroy any carbon-based waste, which is over 90% of waste produced in the world. Anything that isn't metal has carbon in it. So it can destroy any type of waste without incineration at all, and with a very, very small amount of energy used at the beginning of the system to get it started. So a very minute carbon footprint, which is enormous, as I'm sure you know. And the fact that there's no incineration is really the key to the ingenuity of this system. There is a prototype, and it has worked successfully, and we have independent lab reports that corroborate the results of it. But basically what it is through cold plasma, it works a chemical reaction. You put waste into the front of the system by a chemical reaction inside a protected metal head. It's like a chamber. It goes through this chamber, which is filled with ceramic beads. Very small ceramic beads, and ceramics are very, very hard, as you know. This motion of the ceramic beads creates a chemical reaction, which actually breaks and pulls apart the covalent bonds of the waste stream running through the system. So what's left are free carbon radicals floating around at the end of the system, and what they look for are other elements to join with. So at the end of the system, you end up with carbon dioxide, a little bit of nitric, NO2, which is harmless, and water. The waste can be heated into steam and used as a renewable energy source.
Wow.
And the system will work on any carbon-based waste at all. But our business plan has targeted hazardous waste, primarily pharmaceutical and medical waste, because there's a cost associated with dealing with that waste. And also because, as I was talking before about David's mission, the problem of hazardous waste is is enormous. It's well known, and it's becoming much more severe. If your listeners want to go to the UN website, this is just some facts and figures, and look up a recent report called Sick Water. It gives you facts that are absolutely sobering. And again, it's always the children. A child will die every 20 seconds this year of a disease directly related to polluted water. Now, not every bit of that is hazardous waste. Some of it is poor drainage, et cetera. But right now, hazardous waste, it's treated, stored, and hauled, put into a landfill. The company that's produced that waste is responsible for it going forward forever. If there is a spill or a leak, it's the company's responsibility to clean it up. And it's anticipated that in the future, licenses for landfills will be difficult to obtain. Permits to build new incinerators will be illegal. So the costs associated with the management of the hazardous waste will be higher, and the occurrence of sick water will be greater. The fines for noncompliance, litigation, all of this kind of points to a tipping point, in our estimation, in the marketplace and in the businesses associated. And we want to definitely be ahead of that curve. And as David would say, it's the right thing to do. So we're very proactive on this project as well.
Do you have any operating yet?
Excuse me?
Do you have any operating yet?
We are not operating it yet. There is a prototype unit, and it has tested out correctly on 2 different batches of hazardous waste. And I believe that might have been filmed as well. I'm not sure. Where hazardous waste from
what's the expense of the system, Kathy?
Right now, it costs over $3 a pound to store hazardous waste.
Right.
So it clearly will be a savings when it comes. Say you're a pharmaceutical company, and right now you're dealing with the software technology, the manpower, and the land power to deal with your active intermediate pharmaceutical waste. That's a cost that it just keeps on going and keeps on getting bigger and keeps on staying longer. So, David, we put a system together, didn't we? A mathematical equation when the unit would go in on what they would save?
Yes, we have that analysis, but I think for a moment, let me just back up and make a point that the unit is not a commercialized unit as of yet. We are hoping to develop that sizing of it in the very near future. The issue for this is that it is so dramatic as they talk about destructive technologies. This is one that will have a major impact. And so part of the issue of designing this for commercialization has to do with where it's going to be placed. For instance, if one was to place it similar to a unit that is just for collection of pharmaceutical or drugs left over in your house, as the New York Times showed, I think about 2 weeks ago, just a garbage can, if you will, at a drugstore. If we were to place that kind of small units in each location, it would be one type of unit, as opposed to a larger commercial type as a pharmaceutical manufacturing company might choose. So we're in the process now of analysis of which area should we be going for in the design, because it makes a big difference.
Hey, Dave, I've got a question, too. What about, I'm just thinking out loud here, what about, like, say, every city and county that has a landfill? I mean,
yes.
I mean, you just think about that. How many, hundreds of thousands of those are around just the United States?
Well, you're absolutely correct. There's an issue about legislation and the current regulations in Congress that I believe expire in 2014 that have to do with incinerators and incinerations. The largest company, I believe, in the business is Stericycle, which obviously is a huge public company. This technology needs to be analyzed as to where to attack first because of its destructive ability to the way things are done today. because of the regulations that Congress has for following toxic waste for, I think it's 104 years. It needs to be monitored. Otherwise, if it's incinerated and then all the carbon that is spent on it. So they're still going through the process, and we're waiting to see what legislation comes out this fall to make some decisions. But I might quickly add that there was a documentary done by Jacques Cousteau's, I believe it's great-great-granddaughter, and it was on either 60 Minutes or 2020, one of those shows about 6 months ago, that showed an identification of a non-oxygen area in the Gulf of Mexico, and they traced it all the way up the Mississippi and then got lost. And so we know from, as Kathy is told, that there is just plain waste that is untreated to toxic waste that is just dumped because of the cost of picking it up, hauling it away, incineration, or burying it and monitoring it for the 100-plus years that is required. So it's a wide open field, and yet we're unable to make a couple of decisions here until the fall, and hopefully they'll pass that legislation that will give us direction as to how to commercialize it.
Well, if it's 104...
And that zone, David, that just to go further with that zone of a no-oxygen zone means specifically that nothing can live there, obviously.
Wow.
So there's no fish, no plant life, no nothing, because nothing can survive without oxygen. So, and I'm sure, having found that one, that there will be others, especially over in the developing world, any of the waters over there. I'm not sure if they've done any work studying that yet, but you can rest assured there will be. So it's a huge problem.
Kind of like New Jersey, right, Kathy? No, I'm just kidding. That's terrible.
No.
By the way, we do have a word that from Mike King's ever-present webmaster that the World Without Blindness PowerPoint is on the Princeton Research site, and it will be under today's Money Info show. So congratulations to him. Quick work there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He is terrific.
Yep.
Okay, so let me ask a question, David and or Kathy. So we've got this passed in the fall, and we've traced it back to the source somewhere along the Mississippi, and lo and behold, we find a company that's generating the waste that is filtering in from, Middle America all the way to the Gulf. What does it cost that company to have a commercialized unit handling that waste? I mean, I'm not asking for anything more than, a rough estimate. Is it $100 million? Is it $1 billion? Is it $3 billion? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what, I understand the social benefit of it and the, and the agricultural and environmental upside of it, but is it affordable?
That's a great question, and certainly comes right off of the so-called 1980s Superfund problems. The answer to it from a toxic waste point of view, and I'm approaching it from that because that's where we did our analysis, or our scientist, I should say, has done all of the analyses. The answer is it would be less money than they're spending right now to take it away.
It's over $3 a pound at this point, David. It's a new number. It's well up to close to $3 a pound versus municipal sludge, those kinds of things, which may be 55 cents a pound.
Wow, what a savings!
So but here's where the answer really is almost misleading in a sense. That not only will they not spend more money to handle this, but they will save money, and as a byproduct, the way the equipment can be designed on an internal system, one that's integrated into the company's manufacturing facility, they will be able to have from the system electricity and or steam. so that in effect they co-generate their own power system, reducing their power costs as well for the overall facility. So net, this is a positive step forward where they will be saving money.
Boy,
and
wouldn't that...
we're assuming that they would be able to, the whole carbon situation and carbon credits.
Sure.
The other part of the system, not even just about the, the waste that's being destroyed, but the carbon footprint of the system itself is minute. So when you think of the incinerators, which, as David said, we're hoping that by 2014 there's supposed to be legislation that you will not be able to get a license for a new incinerator anymore. So incinerators that are in existence, they will be able to operate, but new incinerators will not. So the idea of having your own system that destroys waste without a carbon footprint at the beginning or the end, a very minor footprint, that's another side of it. That has got to be positive for your company.
Wow. Yeah, I can't believe it. We could have you guys on for 10 hours here. You're just so enlightening. Kathy, what's the website at Treetop, Kathy or David?
It's www.tt, like Thomas, I, like Israel, OB like boy.com.
Great. Good stuff. And don't forget the World Without Blindness project, and the PowerPoint is right up on Princeton Research's website, princetonresearch.com, under today's Money Info Show. Guys, thank you very much for being with us. Kathy, this is your first visit. Please don't make it your last, huh?
Oh, thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Love to have you back. And David, welcome back, and we'll talk to both of you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Well, Charles and Michael, heavyweight guests, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is...
Yeah, so we have a Rule 17B that I am a shareholder in Treetop, and we're negotiating to do a contract with them to really improve their distribution of information.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, that World Without Blindness project sounds just absolutely amazing. With everything that's going on in this world right now, that's all the craziness, that seems like just a wonderful, wonderful project. And I just can't believe that, hey, one of the companies that you're associated with is doing this. It's really, really neat. Well, Mike, Charles, you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Mike King in Las Vegas, Charles Moskowitz. Don't forget the lovely texting service with Charles, and don't forget the newsletter as well, the weekly Market Strategies newsletter, okay? And again, don't forget the texting service as well from Princeton Research. 69302 will get you to the texting service and Charles Moskowitz. That'll do it for Money Info today. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, WPSLTV.com. Coming very soon. Full service yet.